In the dimly lit corner of a sleek, glass-walled boardroom on the 50th floor of Manhattan's tallest skyscraper, Alexander Voss, the iron-fisted CEO of Voss Enterprises, cowered against the wall. His tailored suit was rumpled, his tie askew, and his eyes, usually cold and calculating, were wide with terror. "Please, don't hit me," he whispered, his voice cracking like fragile glass. The man standing before him, fists clenched but not raised, was no corporate rival or hired assassin. He was Marcus Hale, a single dad from the mailroom, whose life had just shattered because of one ruthless decision from the top. It was a moment that would redefine both their lives, a collision of worlds that no one saw coming. But to understand how a titan of industry ended up pleading for mercy from the least powerful man in his empire, we have to go back to where it all began. Alexander Voss wasn't born into wealth, he clawed his way up from the ashes of a broken home in a forgotten suburb of Chicago. His father, a factory worker with a temper fueled by cheap whiskey, ruled the household with his fists. Young Alex learned early that vulnerability was a weakness, that tears invited more pain. "Toughen up, boy," his father would snarl after each beating, the bruises hidden under long sleeves at school. Alex's mother, a quiet woman worn down by years of fear, would whisper apologies in the dead of night, but she never left. She couldn't. So Alex did what survivors do, he escaped. He buried the pain under ambition, acing school on scholarships, building a tech empire that revolutionized data analytics. By 45, he was worth billions, featured on Forbes covers as the unbreakable visionary. But inside, the boy who flinched at raised voices still lived, masked by a facade of unyielding control. Voss Enterprises was his kingdom, a place where efficiency reigned supreme and empathy was a liability. Employees whispered about his tirades, his demands for 80-hour weeks, his habit of firing people on whims. Results over feelings, he'd bark in meetings, his voice echoing like a judge's gavel. No one knew the man behind the mask, not his ex-wife, who left after years of emotional distance, nor his two estranged children, who saw him as a walking ATM. Then there was Marcus Hale, the polar opposite in every way. At 32, Marcus was a widower raising his 7-year-old daughter, Lily, in a cramped one-bedroom apartment in Queens. His wife, Sarah, had died 3 years earlier from a rare cancer, leaving him with hospital bills that could sink a ship and a little girl who still cried for her mommy at night. Marcus worked 2 jobs, days in the Voss mailroom, sorting packages with quiet efficiency, and nights driving for a ride-share app. He wasn't bitter, he was grateful. "We've got each other, kiddo," he'd tell Lily over breakfast cereal, ruffling her curly hair. But gratitude didn't pay the rent, and when Lily's school called about her falling behind, exhaustion from late nights waiting for Dad to come home, Marcus felt the weight of the world pressing down. The trouble started 6 months ago when Voss announced a streamlining initiative. In corporate speak, that meant layoffs, hundreds of them. Marcus's department was hit hard. He survived the first wave, but the fear gnawed at him. Colleagues vanished overnight, their desks cleared by security like they'd never existed. Rumors swirled that Voss himself reviewed the lists, slashing names without a second thought. "He's a monster," one laid-off friend texted Marcus. No heart. Marcus tried to stay under the radar, but fate had other plans. One rainy Tuesday, Lily came home from school with a fever that spiked to 104 degrees. Panicked, Marcus called out sick, rushing her to the ER. The doctors said it was pneumonia, treatable, but requiring days of rest, and Marcus by her side. He emailed HR, explaining the situation, attaching a doctor's note. "Family first," he wrote, hoping for understanding. The response came swiftly, a termination email from Voss's office. "Unauthorized absence during critical operations," it read. No warning, no appeal. Marcus stared at his phone in the hospital waiting room, the beeps of machines fading into white noise. How would he afford Lily's meds? The rent, food, rage bubbled up, a foreign feeling for the gentleman who'd always chosen kindness over confrontation. But this was too much. He remembered Sarah's last words. "Protect our girl, Marcus. Whatever it takes." That night, after tucking Lily in with a story about brave knights, Marcus made a decision. He wasn't violent, far from it, but he needed answers. He needed to face the man who'd casually upended his life. The next morning, Marcus stormed into Voss Enterprises, bypassing security with a forged visitor badge from a sympathetic ex-colleague. He took the elevator to the executive floor, heart pounding like a drum. The boardroom was in session, Voss at the head of the table, berating a team of VPs over quarterly projections. Marcus burst in, the door slamming against the wall. The room froze. You, Marcus pointed at Voss, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. You fired me because my daughter was sick. She's 7 years old, fighting pneumonia, and you couldn't spare a single day. The VPs scattered like startled birds, murmuring excuses as they fled. Voss stood, his face a mask of indignation. Security, he shouted into his intercom. But Marcus advanced, his 6-foot frame towering, eyes blazing with the fire of a father scorned. Voss backed up, his mind flashing to childhood nightmares. The raised voice, the looming figure, it was all too familiar. His father's shadow loomed in his memory, belt in hand. Please, don't hit me, the words slipped out before he could stop them, a raw, childlike plea that echoed in the empty room. Marcus stopped dead, fists unclenching. Hit him, the thought hadn't crossed his mind. He saw not the CEO, but a man crumbling, tears streaming down his face. Voss slid down the wall, knees to his chest, sobbing uncontrollably. I'm sorry, Voss whispered. I didn't know, I never know. In that suspended moment, Marcus's anger evaporated, replaced by something deeper, empathy. He knelt down, not as an adversary, but as a human. Hey, man, he said softly, I'm not here to hurt you. I need my job back. For my kid. What followed was a conversation that stretched into hours. Security arrived but Voss waved them away, his voice hoarse. For the first time in decades, he opened up. He told Marcus about his father, the beatings, the fear that shaped him into a fortress of a man. I built this company to prove I was strong, Voss admitted, wiping his eyes. But all I've done is hurt people like he hurt me. Marcus listened, sharing his own scars, the loss of Sarah, the daily grind of single parenthood, the quiet despair of feeling invisible in a world that valued profits over people. We're all fighting battles, Mr. Voss, he said, but you don't have to fight alone. By evening, something shifted. Voss reinstated Marcus on the spot, with back pay and a promotion to logistics coordinator, a role with flexible hours for family needs. But it didn't stop there. Haunted by his vulnerability, Voss sought therapy, confronting the demons he'd buried. He revamped company policies, paid family leave, mental health days, anonymous feedback channels. Layoffs were paused, replaced by retraining programs. Employees whispered in awe. The monster was changing. Marcus became an unlikely confidant. Over coffee breaks, they'd talk, Voss about rebuilding ties with his kids, Marcus about Lily's progress in school. One day, Voss visited the hospital where Lily was recovering, bringing a stuffed unicorn and a promise, a scholarship fund for employees' children facing medical hardships. Lily, with her bright eyes and gap-toothed smile, hugged the CEO without hesitation. Thank you, Mr. Voss, she said, and Voss felt a warmth he'd forgotten existed. Challenges arose, of course. Voss's board resisted the changes, calling them soft. Investors grumbled about short-term profits dipping. Voss faced his own relapses, old habits of snapping under stress, but Marcus was there, a quiet reminder, you're not your father. You're better. Marcus struggled too. Trusting a man who'd nearly destroyed him wasn't easy, and the promotion brought jealousy from coworkers. Lily's illness lingered, requiring ongoing care that tested his resolve. But together, they navigated it. Marcus taught Voss about grace, Voss gave Marcus stability. Months later, at the company gala, Voss took the stage not as the unbreakable visionary but as a humbled leader. I was lost in my own pain, he confessed to the crowd, Marcus standing proudly beside him. But a single dad showed me that true strength comes from compassion, not control. We've all got stories, let's build a world where they don't break us. The audience erupted in applause, but the real change was quieter, families reunited, employees thriving, a ripple of kindness spreading beyond the boardroom. In the end, it wasn't power or wealth that changed everything, it was one man's plea and another's choice to listen. Alexander Voss learned that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the bridge to healing. Marcus Hale discovered that standing up doesn't always mean fighting, it means extending a hand. And Lily, she grew up knowing her dad was a hero, not for conquering a giant, but for helping him stand tall. Their story reminds us, in a world quick to strike, choose empathy. It might just change everything.